All right, so the time is now 7:03. This is the, like I said before, the regular meeting for the Lemoore Planning Commission to commence at 7:04. Call this meeting to order. Okay, our moving forward again with our continuing in item 2. We'll now conduct the roll call of the planning commissioners. So Commissioner Burr. Present. Commissioner Clement.
Present.
Commissioner Couch.
Here.
Commissioner Echegon.
Here.
Commissioner Me.
Here.
And then Commissioner Day is here as well. And will the record reflect that Commissioner Franklin is not with us this evening? Okay, and moving into item number 3, which is the public comment. So the public comment will be in accordance with the attached policy. This time is reserved for members of the audience to address the planning commission on items of interest that are not on the agenda and are within the subject matter jurisdiction of the commission. It is recommended that speakers limit their comments to 3 minutes each, and it is requested that no comments be made during this period on items on the agenda. The commission is prohibited by law from taking any action on matters discussed that are not on the agenda. Prior to addressing the commission, any handouts for commission will be provided to the commission secretary for distribution to the commission and appropriate staff. The public will have an opportunity to comment on items that are on the agenda once the item has been called and the chair opens the item to the public. So at this point in time, are there any comments from the public that's not related to an agenda item this evening? Okay, seeing none in the audience, were there any that came in by email or other methods, Christy? No. Okay, so seeing that there's no public comment, we'll move into item number 4, which is the approval of the minutes from the regular meeting of August 8th, 2022. So have all the commissioners had the opportunity to review those minutes, and if so, and if you're ready, I'll entertain a motion on those minutes.
I'd like to make a motion to accept the minutes as they were presented.
I'd like to second that motion.
All right, so I have a motion by Commissioner Echegon and a second from Commissioner Couch. Any discussion or further comment on the motion? Okay, seeing none. Okay, Commissioner Echegon,
Aye.
Commissioner Couch,
Aye.
Commissioner Brewer,
Aye.
Commissioner Clement,
Aye.
Commissioner Me,
Aye.
and I vote aye as well. Okay, so the approval of the minutes passes. That takes us into item number 5, which is a public hearing item. It's a request by AMG and Associates LLC for approval of major site plan review number 2022-05 to construct an affordable housing apartment complex consisting of 108 residential units with a community building, laundry building, outdoor pool, tot lot, and dog park on an undeveloped 4.92 acre site. The site is currently owned by the city of Lemoore, was purchased by the former redevelopment agency for the purpose of providing affordable housing, and would be sold to the applicant in accordance with the requirements of Surplus Property Land Act. The project is located on the southeast corner of East D Street and Smith Avenue in the city of Lemoore. APN 023-020-064 and 023-020-065. Okay, and our city planner, Steve, is at the podium, and he'll fill us in with more of the nitty gritty about this project.
Thank you, Commissioner Day. Yes, Steve Brandt, city planner. This item is for major site plan review for this project, which is proposing 108 affordable housing units in an apartment complex. This site is 4.91 acres and currently consists of 2 parcels, which would be combined into one parcel. So the commissioner's role is to review the site plan, but I wanted to give you the background on the site. The site was originally purchased by the former city redevelopment agency with the intent of using the site for affordable housing at some point in the future. After the redevelopment agency went away, the city still owned the property and felt that we needed to still use the site for that purpose. So we went through a process to select a builder. We put it out, use state housing and community development department to put it out and made it known that we're looking for developers that are interested in the site. And we got 3 offers, which made their offers of, how much they were willing to pay, how much additional support they needed from the city in terms of monetary support for their project, and how many units they think they could be able to build. AMG came in with what we believe to be the best offer with 108 units. They didn't ask for any additional cash from the city to build the project, and offered a fair price for the land. So at a couple meetings ago, or on October 6th, the city council accepted AMG's offer to purchase and directed the city manager to open escrow. So this is the next step in the process. We've been working with them on their site plan. Because it's an affordable housing project, they are allowed a density bonus, which means that they get a higher density than what the zoning would normally allow. And so it is a tight site. It's the buildings are 3 stories. The site would normally, let me look it up here. Sorry. I thought I didn't have it in here. I think it's something that the size of the site would normally allow like about 90 units. So they're about 18 to 20 units more dense than what the zoning is. Now, it's not the high density zoning that we have. Our highest zone, it's medium density. But they are within the density bonus that is allowed for an affordable housing project. The other thing that happens when you have an affordable housing project, the city's ordinance allows concessions, which means if there are development standards that the project can't meet because it's trying to increase the density in order to make the project affordable, the city can give concessions to that. So we can give up to 3 concessions. The 3 that they've asked for through the site plan process is for the building setbacks, which would normally be 15 feet from both D Street and from Smith Avenue. And so the buildings will be 10 feet back instead of 15. A parking reduction. And then also the Smith Avenue widening would be 5 feet less than what our normal city standard would be. So each of those 3 concessions allows them to get more units on the site and to make the project affordable. So this is all part of what's in the city zoning ordinance for allowing affordable housing projects. And every city, it's part of state law too. Every state is required to have this type of concession process in their ordinance. So we worked with the applicant. We worked on the site, made a couple changes, and are recommending this one to you. You can see some of the renderings of what it would look like. 3-story project. Has a lot of not just a square box project, but has the amenities. There would be 2 laundry rooms, one in a standalone building and another in the community center. And there'd be a pool, a tot lot, some picnic areas, and a little dog park. Christy and I contacted CART a few weeks ago, and they said that they would likely put in a bus stop right there at the corner of D and Smith once this goes in and the street is widened. So I want to make sure I've got everything here. There's a few things with some of the crosswalks in the parking lot that we don't think meet the ADA standards, but we'll work with the applicant and then we can iron that out at the building permit stage. So we're recommending that you adopt the resolution with the findings and the conditions. The conditions are pretty standard for major site plan review. Some of the specifics of this is that they're required to do a lot line adjustment before the building permit is issued. And to work with CART and work with us on the ADA standards. So we're recommending that you approve the major site plan review. And the next step in the process would be the council would finalize the sale of the property and make agreements that would guarantee the housing affordability. I'm open for any questions.
All right. So at this time, is there any questions or comments from the commission?
Question on the cart addition,
Yeah.
and that, you said that'd be on D Street probably?
Yeah, right now they have a bus that stops on the other side of the street going west. So they would put a stop on what would be the south side of D Street for
So this
buses going
street
east.
falls like a very short additional lane for that bus to pull into, like we have in other parts. of the
Yeah,
city?
we talked about it. So the street will be wide enough to have a parking lane. So they'll be able to have cars parked on the street. So what we'll likely do is we'll red curb the first, I don't know, 100 feet right past the intersection, and then that'll be what the bus stop.
Thank you.
So we're looking at widening D Street along that?
Yes, it'll be wider.
From what point to what point, as far as D Street being widened?
Well, it'll be the entire length of the site. And you want to put the aerial back up?
The residential, the housing.
So yeah, so it'll go the entire length of the site. So I guess it would not be past the site to the east. Wouldn't be widened. But the widening would then would allow for basically for the parking lane to be there. Because you've already got the two-way traffic. And I think it would allow a center turning lane in as well, which I don't think is there right now.
So the Smith and D, are they looking at maybe putting a four-way stop in there because increase in traffic?
We haven't talked about that, but it's putting a four-way stop at that location. You're asking me to be a traffic engineer right now, but usually they do a warrant study. If there's enough traffic that's saying, hey, this is unsafe with a two-way stop, then they would do a warrant study. And if the warrants say, yeah, you should put in a four-way stop, then they put it in.
Without that, then there would not be a stop sign or a stop light from 18th all the way around to
The 17th.
17th.
Yeah,
That's a long stretch.
yeah, it
And
is.
there are several turn opportunities between those two. I think that might create a logjam.
Yeah, I would,
If there was a stop sign, if there was four-way, or if there was not.
If there was a four-way on Smith and D.
Yeah, that's where I've learned, I said, you're asking me to be a traffic engineer. No, it was kind of a joke because they go strictly by the study. They don't go, and I've seen them, the only way that they won't go, the only way they'll go against the study is if the city council overrides them. And if there's a lot of public outcry for something. So we'll have to see how the traffic actually flows once the project is built. You'll probably be able to tell pretty quickly.
And also on a project like that, so like at that intersection of Smith and D Street, it's not as if there's no traffic controls, because you do have the two-way stop when you're crossing, when you're continuing on to Smith, you have the stops on both sides of those. So there is some regulation there as far as traffic flow.
Yeah,
Right.
and there'll be left turn pockets if somebody's having trouble making the left turn. they can hang out in the left turn pocket. So
I would be concerned if that stop sign or stoplight were placed on D Street, not like it is on Smith on both sides. That makes sense. But putting something on D itself between 18th and 17th, I think is questionable.
Yeah,
okay, yeah. Well, the other thing is there's more than one way to get out of that area, and traffic finds the path
Yeah.
of least resistance.
When I went this afternoon, I didn't go back out on D. There are other streets,
Mhm.
Grace or Garcia or something, clear out to 18th. Couple of different ways out.
Okay. But yeah, we can be talking to Frank and Jeff about watching for that
Okay.
once it gets built.
so if I see this right, there's an access on the near the end of the east side of the project,
Yes,
and is there another one somewhere?
there's another one on the south.
Yeah, there'd be one down here.
Hey, okay, there it is.
Yep.
Yep, okay.
There's going to be a wrought iron fence around the site adjacent to the streets. There will not be gates on the driveways.
Mhm.
But there will be some intermittent pedestrian gates so people can get through. And especially there's going to be one near the bus stop.
So I understand there'd be wrought iron fence all the way around, because currently on Smith Street on the west, there's like a dirt berm.
Yes, so Smith will be widened as well.
Okay.
And so there'll be a berm there, and then we're working with them about undergrounding the power lines.
That would be nice.
So part of the concessions was less parking off street, right?
Less parking on site. Yeah,
On site, right,
site.
less
Yes,
parking on
off-street,
site, sorry.
site. Yeah, same
Do you
thing.
have an estimate of how much parking will be on the street available for that, to make up for that? Is part of the concession to have enough on-street parking, or is that not part of it?
No, the concession is kind of something we have to give because they're doing
Yeah.
affordable housing.
Yeah,
But looking at it, you've got that entire length of D Street minus what'll be used for the bus stop.
yeah,
You've got some of Smith.
probably near the access, that'll be,
Yes.
okay,
Parking, and the parking standard is based on, I think, like, 2 spaces per unit.
per unit, yeah,
If it's affordable housing, you may not have everyone with
right.
2 cars.
Because you're gonna have a lot of one bedrooms, you said.
Yeah.
So it might even be just one car possibly
Mhm.
per unit, okay.
All right, any other questions or comments from the commission at this point?
I have a question. This has nothing really to do with what we're approving.
Mhm.
The covered parking, is it gonna be solar or anything, or is it just regular
I
covered?
forget, did he
you
say that
know?
it's gonna be solar?
I looked through it, I didn't see anything.
We can ask them, okay.
Oh, okay, okay.
Well, follow up with that is talked about like 161 parking spots and 141 or something like that. Regular, and then 15 dedicated for electric vehicles. Excuse me. Does that, is this like a future infrastructure concern? Or is there an assumption that we're gonna have 15 low-income families with electric vehicles that they're up a charging station for, that is not covered and protected?
Hmm, that's probably another good question for the developer.
Okay.
Oh, so the EV that's required, part of the
The EV.
parking is
EV
out.
is currently not required by our ordinance. That's
Right.
something the applicant's proposing.
Oh, they did, okay.
Yes.
Are they just gonna put the conduit and stuff available, or is they actually gonna install the charging stations?
That's
Do you
probably
know?
another good question.
Oh, okay, okay.
That's my question.
Oh, I gotcha, okay.
Yeah. A good one.
Okay.
All right, so if there's no further comment or question from the commission at this point, I will open the public hearing at 7:23. Okay, so at this time, if there's anybody from the public who would wish to speak regarding this or pose a comment or a question regarding this matter. So.
Just to remind you that you have the developer online, so I was kind of hoping that they would speak first and maybe add a little bit. Cameron, can you hear us?
Yes, there you go.
So,
Hi, good evening.
yeah, if you want to go ahead.
Sure. Yeah, good evening, Chairman, members of the commission. My name is Cameron Johnson. I represent AMG and Associates in Pacific West Communities. We are the co-developers of this project. Just as a real quick way of background, we've been developing affordable housing throughout California for the last 20, 25 years. Together, we've developed well over 10,000 units. We have a very extensive background down the Central Valley. We actually do have some other projects in Lemoore. The Cinnamon Villas senior apartments were a development of ours. And so we work closely in the Central Valley. This is a unique project, and I can give you a little bit of background on why we're doing some of these things, such as the electric vehicles, why we're asking for a fairly significant parking concession. Each year there's a program called the Affordable Housing Sustainable Communities Program that was put together by the California Strategic Growth Council and HCD, and with the goal of developing more infill affordable housing while also reducing greenhouse gas emissions. And so the goal is to build this housing and then promote alternative modes of transportation away from single passenger vehicular use. We've been talking with the city closely about this, and then they're very excited. And so what we'll be doing is submitting an application for funding next year, assuming that this project gets approved, and which we'll be asking for funding to develop the project, but we'll also be requesting somewhere in the range of $4 to $6 million of grant money that will go towards the city to help build new bicycle lanes, sidewalk infrastructure, bus shelters, new buses, rideshare vans. And so that's part of the reason why we have these 15 electric vehicle parking spaces with charging stations. As an example, just recently, we have a project in Coalinga right now being built, this same program. We were able to purchase a brand new electric bus. And the project it's fully solar. These are net zero energy projects. So as much energy as we plan on using on site, we plan on creating through solar energy. This project will have multiple bicycle storages. And again, so the whole purpose here is we want to get tenants in here that aren't driving to work, just to reduce the greenhouse gas emissions. So it's a really exciting program. I usually go out and try to partner with 1 to 2 cities a year. We've had probably more success than anyone else in the state. Last year, we've submitted 2 applications, one in Ridgecrest, one in Coalinga. They were both funded. And, we're excited to work with the city of Lemoore here to, bring this, much needed 108 units of affordable housing, but also some much needed public infrastructure to make the city safer for pedestrians and on bicycles, walking, rideshare vans, and transit. And I'm happy to answer any questions you guys may have about the project.
All right, thank you. And then Cameron, if I could make a request of you that as members from the audience are posing questions, if you could maybe take note of those questions, and then
Sure.
if there's anything specific, then you can go back and kind of provide answers or additional comment regarding those questions. That way we don't have to keep bouncing back and forth between individual speakers.
Absolutely.
All right, I appreciate that. Thank you. Okay, so anyone from the audience care to give a question or comment?
And what do you need from me? I'll tell you, my name is Pamela Hansen. I live at 180 Grace Court, and it appears that the largest opening faces Oleander. So I do want some clarification on that, as where the entrance for all the parking, it looks like the entire parking lot faces my property, my front door. So can I get clarification as to where the parking lot is facing?
Are you referring to where is your house? You're just east of the entrance off Oleander?
I turn about 2 seconds off of Oleander into my driveway on Grace Court.
Okay, because I don't have that as Grace Court. Yeah, I mean, that's gonna be, okay,
It's a half a block from Smith. You turn down Smith onto Oleander and then Grace Court.
yeah, I apologize. I don't have a map of that, of Grace Court, but so does your property abut our project or it's on the other side of the street?
From the way it appears, what I need to know when I'm looking at this, I see the bulk of the apartments lining D Street. The other bulk of the apartments are lining Smith. And then all of these community buildings are in the middle, along with the parking lot is in the middle, which faces Oleander. And if it is facing Oleander, again, that's my front door.
Yeah.
So is it facing Oleander?
From what I see, the driveway in off of Oleander is right across from Gray Street.
Yes, okay.
That's what I see.
And so you're talking about egress and about safety and about parking. So all of these things I can address if you're wondering how it's going to work. So you not only have our court where at times when the high school has things going on, they're coming down Smith. We have that happens on occasion. So you add 108 units where they're coming out from that same location, whether it's wider or not, it's not safe. And another thing I'd like to address is it was years ago, we've been in this place for over 20 years. And prior to this, we were interested in a piece of property behind where we actually built. And at that time, the commission at that time, I know it's probably not any of you, but at the commission at that time said it was not safe to build at that location without completing Oleander all the way to D Street. And so you're telling me at this time that now we can add 108 units without completing Oleander all the way to D Street, and you can get a fire department down there for safety for 108 units. My home, because it's now more at risk when we have people right across the way. So I don't know what other entrance you have besides Oleander.
There is one on D Street.
There is one on D
Yeah,
Street.
there's one on D Street.
Okay, it looks a little bit more narrow. It appears that way. But we also do have to consider the fire issue because that was something that we were told when we wanted to build that was an issue. Three stories high, not thrilled about. Looking down into the backyard. Who's maintaining this unit? So we build, we leave, or we build and we continue to maintain and keep a certain quality of life going there. Who's going to be the continual manager of this property? Is that something that we've looked into, or we just? Yeah, I'll wait.
Jacob or Cameron?
Yeah, I can go ahead and answer some of those questions. I definitely anticipate the primary access being off of D Street. I mean, we're going to be required with a project of this size, though, we're required, they're going to have, we can't get away with just having one point of access, like you mentioned for fire. The reason we have the parking where we do is we try to, because we're abutting single family there, we like to have the parking be a buffer from these 3-story structures. So that's part of the reason why you see it laid out the way it is, rather than having the parking up against the street and those structures up against those lots. As far as property management goes, as I mentioned, we have well over 10,000 units throughout California. They're all managed by nationally recognized regional property management companies. It's likely that the property management company that will manage this project is our same property management company that manages Cinnamon Villas. And I'd be happy to provide their information. But, you know, and again, if we're not the type of company that comes into a city, develops a projects and leaves. I mean, my goal is always to come in and form a relationship with the city, with the community, and develop projects that our neighbors can be proud of, the city can be proud of, and isn't a public safety, health, or risk. So, you know, we will be here for the long haul. As far as the 3 stories, that we really need to get the density in here. I actually think it's a requirement, but part of your housing element, that we need to build a certain number of units. So to get that density, we had to go 3 stories. We had to do a parking reduction. But overall, I feel pretty happy with the way we were able to lay this site out to have a minimal impact on the neighbors and not be a health and safety risk.
Right, thank you.
Well, when it comes to safety, I wouldn't say that I'm going to feel that much safer with the additional units that are there. That's. When my property values drop, who's going to make up the difference for me? I did not choose to find an area where apartments were in my backyard.
Hi, I'm Bruce Polder, and I live on Grace Court also. I also am the person who had bought most of the property on the east side of Oleander. And Bob, I think you were here probably, man, it must have been about 17 years ago now that there was another company that was brought in here to develop this. I think you're on the board then, weren't you?
Yes.
Yeah, and I asked the board at that time, how many of you have actually seen this company's projects? And at that time, I don't know if any of you have, but I took the time to drive around and see the different projects. I drove all the way to Huron. I drove all the way to Orange Cove and looked at the projects that this company was doing. And it's not the kind of project that I don't think you would want in Lemoore, next to your house. That's where I live. And when it was R17, when I originally bought that property, knowing that I would be developing it into 3 cul-de-sacs. And so having a property like this next to yours, that devaluates your property. It does. And I wasn't able to finish developing the next 2 cul-de-sacs because a whole nother issue when I bought it, or when I presented the plans to the city, it wasn't a question. But then after I developed the first one, I wanted to develop the next 2. All of a sudden, they required an extension of Oleander down and dog-legging over to D Street to where the hotel's at. Okay. And then that became, and they wanted me to do all the development at my cost. And then gradually maybe get paid back as other people would fill in. Well, I know how that goes because I had that somewhat happen before and you don't get paid back. And so it made a hurdle too high. And I think I heard them say there was going to be access going out Oleander right now toward these streets. Well, it's not there yet. And that's through Oliveira's property. And yeah, there's a plan for a right of way through it. But I think if someone like this does develop, they should be required to put that on through for the whole purpose of the fire department and the reason my project got put down. But just set all that aside, I want to go back to the original part. I know how the city got this property that acquired it. And it was because they wanted to get certain funds available. And in doing so, then they were required to abide by certain rules, which required that they would have certain affordable housing. And then so that's how they end up taking this piece on. And honestly, I don't know, you have the city involved in business. I don't think the city should be involved in business like that. I think they should be neutral and just provide rules for people to develop and let people develop at their expense. And whether it's profitable or not, let it chips fall where they may. Back several years ago, when someone's doing that, I don't know, and I don't know if that's part of this. The city was going to give them $500,000 to help buy the property that the city was selling to them. That doesn't seem right to me. And then they were going to give them, it was $900,000 to help build the units. Now, are they getting also funds to help them do this from the city? You guys know?
No,
I can answer that.
Sorry.
The applicant can answer some of the questions. So it's hard to answer questions when you're at the mic.
Okay, I'll just make kind of one more comment. I still plan on developing the rest of the property. And I don't think it's right that I had to make investments based on all that being R17 and then get changed to what it is now. And it just doesn't seem right on my part, because it does make what I had planned on doing there a lot more difficult. If you go to, I don't know if any of you have been down Grace Court, but it is a nice cul-de-sac. It's a nice area in the town. It's really helped that other side there. And the other two cul-de-sacs are going to be just as nice. And it makes it very difficult to sell people on something like that when you have, something like this coming in next door to you. So anyway.
My name is Don Siegel, and I own 684 Oleander, which is the very last house on the north side of Oleander. And I want to know what type of a barrier between my property and this development is going to be there. Someone said a cast iron fence or something like that. That's looking about right here.
Okay. Yeah, so just for clarification, so if there's like questions or comments, if you could just go ahead and state the questions and whatever comments that you may have, right? And then after everyone in the audience gets a chance to pose their questions and comments, then we can turn it back over to Cameron. He can go down each question, be able to offer those answers.
City planner can speak on that.
Did you get my question?
And yeah, what's gonna be between the project and your home?
Yes.
All right, are there any other questions or comments from the public?
Good question. Yes, I'm so sorry. When it comes to parking, I know it's limited. And so what will be done to prevent those there coming to park in our neighborhood? Are there going to be permits, something so that way those parking spots in front of my home are available for my guests and for my family and not being taken up because they can't find a spot on Smith and they can't find a spot on Oleander and they park in front of my home. And right now it is a court for little ones to play and those kinds of things where, again, it's very close. Their egress right there is very close to making a quick little donut and going back out. So again, safety. But the parking issue is also a concern. When I heard that there's a concession being made for parking, that's a big concern of mine as well. Thank you.
All right, any other questions or comments from the public at this time? No? So Cameron, if
Yeah, I can answer a couple of the questions.
Thank you.
Yeah, one of the first questions another gentleman asked was regarding fees, and while it is extremely common for affordable housing developments to need deferred impact fees and make requests of financial obligations and commitments from the city, in this case, I'm not going to be asking anything from the city. As I mentioned before, we're going to be hopefully working with the city to bring additional dollars into the community. We are paying fair market value for the property, and it's property that's going to be imposed with strict conditions of affordability requirements, and the city will still have very much control because we're purchasing it through a disposition and development agreement, where the city will have a lot more ability to impose conditions on what this development is going to look like. So yes, we won't be asking for any money from the city. If anything, we're going to try to bring more state and federal dollars into the community. With respect to the parking, we've dealt with this in the past. We really can't control who parks in a public street like that, but what I can tell you is that we will have an office and a 24-hour on-site resident manager that's always there and available. If there are issues, they can come out and make sure this is not a nuisance. We don't want to be a nuisance. We don't want there to be problems. So we can work closely with management to make sure if people are driving too fast or if they have too many vehicles, that we can put an end to that. But it really just going to boil down to good property management when working closely with the neighbors, being proactive, and we're willing to do that. And I think there was one other question about fencing, and most of our projects all are going to have wrought iron fencing with pilasters. And what we typically like to do when we're a budding single family is utilizing landscaping to help provide additional screening. And so that's probably what we would like. I think that's what we're proposing here. I'm trying to find a landscape plan. Christy, do we submit a preliminary landscape plan, or was that just going to be a condition of approval that will take care of it, the permitting? Or maybe Steve, you might know that.
This is Steve. Yeah, there was a preliminary landscape plan submitted. The area though, and you didn't see it, the area that the gentleman was pointing to was what would be the south and the west adjacent to the existing lots. And so that's where there's going to be a block wall proposed.
Okay, I gotcha.
So there'll be a block wall, and then a short landscape strip, and then the drive aisle for the parking.
Okay, got it.
And then I believe you've also got trees proposed between the covered parking, the covers.
Okay. Yeah, and then also on that note, on that covered parking, that's generally where it's I'm 80% certain that those will be covered with solar panels. I know that question came up earlier. I don't know if I answered it, but generally speaking, we provide solar. We do it on the carports.
So I'll add something about the funding. As I said in my presentation, we got 3 proposals from 3 different affordable housing developers. The other 2 did ask for additional funds from the city in order to make their project work. So that was one of the reasons why the city chose AMG to continue to move forward with.
So Steve, you were talking about the block wall. If I read this right, so the 3 borders that are not bordering along the street will have a block wall.
Correct.
Right?
Yes.
So his property that he's talking about will have a block wall on the end of
Yes.
it.
Along the streets, which would include Oleander, would be the wrought iron fence with the pilasters.
So the wrought iron fence will be on Oleander, Smith, and then D
At
also.
D, yes.
Thank you.
Right.
I think I covered, between the 2 of us, I think we covered the questions, but if there's any others, I'm happy to answer them.
Just kind of a rebuttal or a comment. So just clarifying that along Oleander, which the entire court, not just my home, but others are facing, that it will not have any kind of sound barrier whatsoever. And all of them are facing that direction. And it will be a wrought iron fencing. With an egress. Only one direction. Not both ways down Oleander. Is my understanding.
That all sounds correct to me.
Yeah, the driveway that is opposite Grace Court would be in both directions.
Yeah.
Your driveway,
Yes.
but there is no outlet down Oleander.
Correct. The driveway is a two-way driveway onto Oleander. Yeah.
I'm not sure that, I'm sorry. I'm just not sure that you understand my concern.
Okay.
Okay, so I do understand that your driveway goes both ways,
Mhm.
in and out. Okay, my concern is that they're only going to be coming out and only able to get out one way down Oleander.
Mhm.
So safety reasons is if there was a fire, they have no way to get in from Oleander. You're gridlocked. You have a little bit of D Street. You have that on D Street.
Mhm.
But when we're talking Oleander and the other homes that are down Oleander, and because it's a much greater fire hazard, there is no outlet on Oleander, which had kept previous building projects at a standstill because of that concern. That's all I'm just saying.
But there is no other street to get out of there off of Oleander after Smith. Am I correct?
That is correct.
So-
Correct.
So if what she's trying to say, if you had to evacuate the whole area, including where she lived, they all gotta go west on Oleander
Correct.
to get out,
Yes.
because there's the dead ends the other way.
The site. The vacant area that's farther west of this site. Has already been laid out. It was laid out a number of years ago, and it would connect Oleander when it gets built. We actually had some conversations with that developer in the past year. But haven't seen any indications.
Do you mean to the east, Steve, or to the west?
Sorry, I mean to the
East.
east. Sorry, I mean to the east.
So Oleander,
So Oleander is planned to connect to D Street when that area develops.
and it would just keep going east across that property probably. Because there's also, well, it actually goes towards the north here, right?
It would curve up and connect,
Yeah.
connect to D
Yeah, I see what you're
with
saying,
at a 90-degree angle.
where it's planned, yeah. So here's a question I have. Am I okay to ask a question?
Sure.
With the parking lots, the parking lots that go up to Smith Avenue, why was that not considered, or no, maybe it was considered. Why is that not a driveway right there exiting off of Smith Avenue and just vacating the Oleander? Do you see what I'm saying? So if
Yeah,
you look
we-
over there, you got all those parking right there. Why not a driveway off to Smith Avenue?
We did discuss that at the staff level on whether we should ask for that driveway to be added.
Yeah,
There were two main reasons why we decided against it. One was that it would be fairly close to the intersection
Mhm.
of Smith and D.
yeah.
And the other one was the driveway would line up right with somebody's front door.
Oh, I see.
So
Okay. So this other one lines up with
this
Grace
one
Court
lines up with.
as if
with
it's a
street,
four-way
so that-
stop.
So if somebody's driving out at night, the headlights go down the
Oh.
street, not into somebody's front door.
Okay, yeah, when I first saw this, I thought all of that parking right there, why don't they just exit? And that's what you guys, those are the reasons for that. Okay. So the north side of Oleander will be developed curb and gutter sidewalk to match what's on the south side.
Correct.
Okay. So that will all be improved right
They'll
there.
be all improved and widened to its
Okay.
full width.
Sidewalks and then all the way around Smith Avenue, all the
They'll
way
have
around D
sidewalk-
Street,
They'll have sidewalk as well, yeah.
all the way. Okay.
Right. So Were there any questions or comments that came in online, Christie, or?
Was there parking along Smith as well?
The street will be built so that there will be a room for parking on both sides of the street.
Right, so if there's no further questions from the public, sir.
Might be a reiteration, but again, my property was basically all of it from right here all the way down to here, this side. And there was gonna be 3 cul-de-sacs, right here, here, here. And if I was to build any one of these, I had to complete Oleander over here for safety, fire safety. And that was the big hurdle I was talking about for me to do. Now, how can you let them do it? Build it, or you're gonna create the same kind of situation without them having to build that? I think that should be part of their requirement. And Olivera is not, he's not. You don't know if he's been looking at this thing he's the one who owns the property on the east side of all that, where that dogleg road would go through and connect. And so he's been looking at this for 10, 15 years. So what's going to make him do it? I think that if I was required to do it, I think they should be required to do it.
All right, thank you. And so at this time, I'll close the public comment or public hearing at 7:55. We'll bring it back to the commission for further discussion, questions, comments.
My comment runs in line with the Oleander Avenue. I know it's supposed to be, this is geared more towards affordable housing, public transit. Fact of the matter is, we live in a rural area. Public transit, as much as we want to bring it into play, it's not a reality. You know, there's not enough available jobs locally. There's not enough available anything like there is in a densely populated area like a Fresno or a Visalia. So majority of these tenants or their guests are going to be driving. So there's going to be increased traffic on D Street, Smith Street. D Street's already a main artery in and out of town. I don't disagree with the project. Obviously, we need affordable housing. It looks like a nice development. My concern is the Oleander, because now you're gonna increase traffic flows, and they're gonna increase at times in the morning when kids are going to school, because that's when a majority of movement is, mornings and evenings. There's already a lot of foot traffic. School kids, the high school is only a couple blocks over. There's people that cut through that neighborhood on Oleander already that come off of Bush. It's similar to Dogwood area. If anybody's familiar with that area, people are constantly cutting from Cinnamon over to 19th. They use it as a thoroughfare. A lot of them don't live there, but they use it because, like, it was, I forget who made the comment, traffic goes to the least resistance. So I think something that should strongly be considered is Oleander Avenue being completed and giving another point of access from a availability, not just to the project, but to the current residents there, and from a safety standpoint, whether it be law enforcement, medical aid. You're kind of boxing that area in. And I think it's going to cause issues.
Yeah, so looking at this, so this whole piece of land, I don't know how many years ago that was when I ran for city council. I got to sit down with the outgoing mayor, and she and I had a long discussion about things going on within the city. And this parcel was brought up, and she explained to me how it was purchased through the redevelopment agency and what it was going to have to be. At that time, she was totally against this whole project, but this, she was outvoted. This city bought it, and end of story there. But when the city bought this, they were gambling on the fact that the land that the Oliveras own would get developed, and that street would go through, and everything would be a piece of cake after that. And that didn't, and so we end up where we are right now. The gentleman mentioned how he can't develop because they told him they'd have to get this street to go through. I heard somebody else talking about the parking. People starting to park in their neighborhood. My in-laws had a development like this go up just on the other side of town here, right up against their neighborhood. One of the outlets comes right out in front of my mother-in-law's house. I hardly ever am able to park in front of my mother-in-law's house. I've got to park almost a block away sometimes to walk to get to her house, because the people that, there's not enough parking in there for everybody. The people that live there park wherever they can. So I completely understand where she's coming from on that. And just on a personal note, there's a lot of different things, but some of these things are exactly why I don't think multifamily should be anywhere up against single family housing, because issues come up like this.
Looking at this, fire department, other departments, agencies need to sign off on this before it can move forward. And I'm just looking through what the fire department comments were or are not were. It seems like there's not that much of an issue with the fire department in terms of this project. Am I missing something on that? I mean, the concerns about one way in and one way out, just to a limited extent, for example, is something the fire department, as far as I can recollect, is supposed to comment upon how they can get a vehicle in and get them out safely or something like that. So I'm just, is there something I'm missing in what this is? Because that is a concern from some of the public here.
Yes, we did consult with the fire department, and their comments are in your packet as part of the site plan review process. I don't recall them talking about issues of getting on and off the site. My speculation was it's a 3-story building, 10 feet from D Street. They would probably stay on D Street.
Yeah, they
if there
would
was a
not go
fire.
into the complex.
They
if
wouldn't
there was
go
a
into the
fire.
complex.
Thank you.
Okay.
It's also worth noting that just not too terribly long ago, the Kings County Association of Governments put forth their regional housing assessment report. If you ever are inclined to do some late night reading and want to sift through that, there's some really insightful information about the housing needs of Kings County, and it gets broken down into the communities within the county. And there's a whole lot of methodology that goes into it. Projections for population growth over the next 25 years, things of that nature. And so some of the concerns, one that was noted was the height of the building, right? So that is something that even regardless of what the building is, right, that's but specifically because it is residential, right, it's unprecedented and within our community, right? It's and there's a few ways that could be seen that, particularly if you live close to it, there's concerns, valid concerns, right, about like what that entails for, just being able to view into somebody else's property. Outside of that, it's also a glimpse into the future of our community, being as that our population will grow, it won't decline, it'll be growing. And so the need to, you can only grow out so far, right? That at some point you're going to have to start building up. And this would be one of the, if this goes through, this would be one of those first projects to start kind of doing that. And so just keeping that in mind, to the need to grow it up as opposed to grow it out allows for that density of people within a certain income bracket to be able to live within, for one, to be able to have access to resources within the community. So there's a lot of factors that go into it. Access to stores where you can buy actual food, not, what I call plastic food. But legit food, a grocery store, not just like a convenience store or whatever, right? Where you're not necessarily getting like real food. Other types of resources, schools, things of that nature. You don't want to place somebody in different types of social deserts. So this is it's a good project. There are definitely some valid concerns. And so it's also worth noting that our role here as a commission is not to say yay or nay that we're going to build this project, but merely as a site review. And if there are certain accommodations or recommendations on top of or instead of certain things that are within the proposal, to make those, right? Because then whatever we conclude here this evening, right, that then goes to city council for their final approval, right?
No, the site plan does not automatically go to council, but obviously the project will come back to council because they're working through the escrow and the disposition and development agreement,
Okay.
which will state that the project has to be built in accordance with the site plan.
Okay. But the point being is if there were recommendations that to be added to the proposal, like now would be the time to make those proposals, right?
Mr. Chair, I have one question. Does legal have any comments to make on this?
No, not really, but our chairman correctly said that this is a site plan review. I mean, and so this commission's review is whether it meets the city's requirements for the site plan review. I mean, there are many other aspects of this. Obviously, there's a sale. There's going to be, as I understand it, a disposition and development agreement coming up as well, but this is just merely one component of it.
Thank you.
Okay, so if there's no further questions, comments, or concerns, I'll entertain a motion at this time.
Well, it seems to me that this meets the requirements of the law and our general plan, et cetera. That does not mean that somebody wants to have a 3-story building in their community, or whether they like dense population as opposed to raising out and going to more farmland. That's outside our purview, as far as I can tell. And so I think, given that, I'd like to move that we move forward and adopt this.
Yes, I have a motion.
In that, just to be clarified, the motion as set forth in the attached resolution.
Yes, I should have
Okay.
given that number. Sorry.
Yeah, the resolution number is 2022-12. That's contained in the agenda package.
Yes. I stand corrected on that.
All right, so is there a second or an amendment proposed to the motion on the floor?
Well, now that we've had clarification on what exactly we're doing here tonight, if everything meets the requirements, so I'll second.
Okay, so I have a motion by Commissioner Mead and a second by Commissioner Echegoyen. Any further comment or discussion regarding the motion? Seeing none. Okay, Commissioner Mead,
Aye.
Commissioner Echegoyen,
Aye.
Commissioner Burr,
Aye.
Commissioner Clement,
Aye.
Commissioner Couch?
I,
I vote aye as well. Okay, so that passes as far as the site plan review. So note for the context of what was being discussed here tonight, y'all brought up valuable insights and inputs. And I highly encourage you to look for this item as it relates to what it will appear as on the city council agenda. They will have much more ability to take your concerns into account when making their decision for moving forward with the project.
Just so we know, how will we be notified?
That was going to be my question. Steve, is the city required to notify residents once the project starts? Or actually before the project starts?
Well, if there is a, it's my understanding, and Mr. Brandt can correct me if I'm wrong, that there will be a disposition and development agreement for this project. That will be a subsequent action by the city council. That's my understanding.
We can take names and addresses and make sure.
That's it.
It's not a required notice. That's a request.
That would be, I think, the recommended way.
All right, thank you. Okay, so moving along. Also before doing so, I really want to express my appreciation and gratitude for y'all coming out this evening and letting your voices be heard. That's what community is about. And so, unfortunately, we're not really in the position to do anything directly related to those comments, but they are expressed, they're on record. And I would encourage you to, like I said, like bring it back to the council when they're moving forward with their process, and they have a much their scope is much larger in terms of what their capacity is to be able to make those adjustments. So again, I really appreciate y'all taking your time out on a Monday night to missing football and all that to come out and be heard. Okay, moving into item number 6, the director's report.
Sorry. Let's think about what I was gonna say. All right, just an update on some things. Well, first, we have another site plan review that we're planning to bring to you at the December meeting. It'll be for some office buildings. The Lemoore project that was approved at near West Hills College, they're starting to pull building permits fairly quickly. So you'll start seeing homes going up in that project soon. We had a project, if you know Daily Homes, they've been working out by 198 and 41 for many years. They've got a little bit left there at the corner, and they did have a subdivision approved that did most, but not all of it, laid out most, but not all of it. That was about 3 years ago, and that the tentative map expired. They didn't get a final map in time. So we're working with them on doing a resubmittal, so that'll come back to you maybe in a few months. And from what we can tell, they'll be proposing the exact same project that had been approved before. We've met a couple times with the developers for Lacey Ranch, working out the phasing and how much they want to build in the first phase. First phase is always the hardest because you've got to pull all the infrastructure to get there. So working with that. So the Public Works Department has been working with them quite a bit. And so yeah, obviously that was the plan. They're not going to take down the whole thing all at once. It'll be maybe a quarter to a third of the project would be in the first phase. And I think that's all I had. Was there anything else you think I missed? That's all I have. If you have any questions. Lennar, yeah. Okay.
By chance, do you know if there's been any update as to the uh, what the process looks like, or if that's still in play, that FEMA funding regarding the Olympic facility out by the college?
I haven't heard anything.
It's, we haven't heard from them. And it looks like we need to have some of it. We don't know. We haven't heard from them, and I'm not sure, but.
Gotcha.
Steve, I
That's all
will
I-
say that I work with a lot of the Lennar guys over in Hanford.
Mhm.
And they are trying to jump ship over in Hanford and get over here as quick as possible. And I keep telling them, finish here and then you can go to Lemoore. But they are just lining up, trying to come to Lemoore. I don't know why they love Lemoore so much, but I mean, they are trying to get over here and get these houses going. So when you said that they're pulling permits, now I see why they're trying to get over here. So,
They are, they're pulling they've submitted quite a few permits.
yeah,
So Lennar will likely have two projects moving. They'll be out at the West Hills, and then they have lots
yeah,
there on 18 3/4
okay,
north of Hanford on Mona Road.
yeah.
And then has there been any update for the development behind the golf course?
Yes, the final map, I think, is just about ready to record. It was here, it was going around for signatures actually today. The developer, the property owner lives in Pismo Beach. So he drove down there to get that signature today, and then it was coming back to get to Jeff Cowart's signature for city engineer. So it'll probably record sometime this week.
All right, sweet. That's all right.
Steve, I have a quick question. Can I ask a question? Is it okay? Over on 19th and I believe it's Bush. I thought we had already approved a plan for gas station, car wash. Do you remember that a couple months ago?
Yep.
Why is there still a for sale sign as if they're still trying to sell that property? Or am I wrong?
That's the developers.
Oh, that's just a developer sign that's up now? Okay. Maybe I was mistaken. Okay.
There's a for sale sign behind that, the lot that's.
Is it?
behind
Okay, I drove by there the other, okay.
And there's another phase that you have not seen yet.
Yeah.
That would be like behind the dialysis center.
Yeah, that.
Oh.
So
there are
they've-
For sale signs over there on the west side of dialysis.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I
they've
didn't know
shown,
something
they've,
had fallen through and they were like.
no,
oh,
as
boy.
far as we know, it hasn't fallen through.
Oh, okay.
The additional area they've shown to us informally, but haven't made a formal submittal yet. So they haven't finalized it.
Mhm,
They just
okay.
wanted to get some informal thoughts from us.
Yeah, gotcha. Okay.
I have one quick, the Helena Chemicals. where-
Yes.
Where's that at?
Have you seen, have they pulled permits at all? No?
Yeah, it's moving slowly.
Got it.
I think they're still kind of in the civil planning process. But that should be, you should see something.
Sweet, all right.
Okay.
Awesome, thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, that takes us into item number 7, commission reports / request. So is there any reports or anything that anything any of the commissioners would like to report out or make request to? No? Seeing none, all right.
I just got one comment. Somebody said they missed the football game. There's a record button on that TV.
All right,
See when you get home.
that's not the same though.
Yeah, it's not the same, yeah.
All right, that takes us into item number 8, which is adjournment. So I will call this meeting of the Lemoore Planning Commission adjourned at 8:18 PM. Thank you, everybody.